Hello, everyone. This is William Roy with Reflection Point Advisors, and we're going to get started in just another minute or two. People are starting to flow in quickly. Everybody gets right to the beginning of the hour and is coming in. I'm seeing lots of people saying hello, and thank you for that message that we just got from Miles. Welcome, Nathaniel. Hi, Karen. We're glad you're coming in from Denver. If you get a chance and you're joining just now, please go to the comments section, say hello, and tell us where you're from. And Terri and I would love to know just the current status of your situation, too. And there'll be a couple of moments, too, where we have questions during our conversation, if you want to call it that. We're doing a little bit different today. It's not just a pure presentation. It's really going to be Terri and I sharing and talking through some of the things we know, as well as sharing some important facts about what's going on today with AI and how you can win in this era, especially for those of us who are 45 plus. So we're going to have some great conversations here shortly. I'm going to give a little bit more time for people to get on for another minute. Grab your coffee, take that restroom break. We're going to have a lot of fun. Terri, are you ready for us to get on the camera? Everybody?
Yeah, let's roll.
All right.
Afternoon where you are.
I know. Let me figure out how to stop the music feature. I couldn't. Oh, there's the pause button, the giant blue button that says, the typical icon. So fantastic. And let me pull up the comments, and then Terri and I are going to show up on the camera here.
Hello.
Well, hello, everybody. We are keeping in mind that as you hear us, about 15 to 20 seconds has occurred since we said what we said, but we're seeing comments in real time. So that's a fun thing that LinkedIn Live, that's how it works. So if we seem slightly delayed on saying hello or welcome, your chats come in instantaneously, and we will be probably about 30 seconds to 45 seconds behind in any kind of replies or anything. So we've got a great presentation. Let's do our introductions. I'll start. My name is William Roy, and I am the co-founder with the amazing Terri Wiksten here of Reflection Point Advisors. And today we've got a great topic. I'll let her share a little bit more on the opener. We are an advisory firm for career professionals. Now, that can be whether you're in a career transition, which is a primary point of this topic, right? Let's talk about how you can think about making any career transitions that make sense. But we also help from an executive leadership and advisory standpoint, helping leaders just become better leaders, work through, navigate the politics, and as we're talking about today, the technology that is really surrounding us and us as leaders. And we're going to share some good news and some facts that maybe help set the tone a little bit better than what you might be hearing out there or anything else. So I won't steal a thunder on that, but Terri Wiksten, I'll let her introduce herself, and then we'll get going.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thanks, everyone, for taking time to come and learn from what we're learning. You know, our jobs every day are to dig around in the job market and find out what's happening. And this platform on LinkedIn Live is fantastic because it helps us to share back with you what we're learning and get feedback and see if we're on the right track as a company, as well as professionals in our own careers. So I have been in career search since 2008. I've seen several of my past clients popping in, which is great. I hope that does not mean that you are in a job search, but if it is, I am right here for you. It's a tough market out there. I think we all know that. I'm going to get started with this fact. So AARP recently reported that if you're over 50 and you lose your job, you'll be out of work almost twice as long as someone who's under 50. So it's a little shocking, and it's a little hard to hear because all of us have that, you know, I think the Indians of the West, I'm in Denver, right? It was all about culture and wisdom. And the older you got, the more you knew and the more esteemed that you were. That does not seem to be the way that it is in the job market. Twice as long is rather hard to hear.
It is. And so let's kind of dive into right what that point really brings into as well now too, right? With this that's, again, Terry's mentioning the AARP data. It's not ours. Again, what's going on there, right? We're talking about other well-known studies that have sent out identical resumes and just only changed the ages. And so we're talking about the fact that these candidates are just getting callbacks fewer. So how do you do that? You've got same qualifications, even same experience. We know that there's an element of ageism. We all do. And we know that that's there. But again, we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the approaches that you can take and methodology for that.
So drop in the chat for us right now. If you're in the room and online, how long have you been in your search? We're not going to make you feel bad about it at all. We just want to know kind of what is the average time that we're seeing out there from people who are on the call today.
And we'll continue to talk a little bit about your experience being worth more now. I mean, let's talk about how that really works. You want it to be worth more now. Why isn't it feeling like that if you're in the search? And so, Terri, can you talk a little bit more about that? And one of my tabs closed, so I am reopening my notes.
Okay, I see a couple people putting some notes about technical difficulties. So if anyone's having trouble, let us know. We'll see what we can do to try to get that working. There's a Harvard Review piece from February, a guy named Dave Duncan. He's a consultant, and he noticed something weird when he started using AI at work. He found that it helped him a lot, but it barely helped some of the younger people on his team. Because AI is really good at producing an answer first, and we all know it comes in and you can put one answer in or one question or inquiry in, and it'll say, that's the best question you've ever answered. And here is the masterful result. And then you could put the exact opposite question in, and it'll still tell you that you have asked the best question ever. But it's not good at knowing if the answer is actually right or if it's applicable. It sparks thought, it sparks conversation, it opens pathways to look at things in different ways, but it needs a human involved to know if that is applicable to the real situation that is happening. So Duncan's word for that is judgment, right? So we, as the elderly job force, Gen Xers out there, and William, are you a millennial? You're a millennial, aren't you?
I'm on that fine line because I am in my mid-40s.
You're on the cusp, right?
I did have a phone that was tethered to the wall. So,
well, I had a rotary phone, dude.
Okay. No comment.
So Duncan's word for that is judgment. Judgment isn't something that you learn in a course, right? So we've been in the trenches. As people that have had, I was a COO of a company for 12 years. William, you were a CTO for 6 years, right? Yeah, that's where I met you as at our former employer. You build that sitting in rooms where conversations are difficult to try to discern what matters. That judgment builds a muscle. And
so even, Terri, those bad meetings can actually pay off, right? Because that's building that muscle.
That's right.
That's okay, right. So there's some more facts that back that up too. I mean, LinkedIn looked at where AI is actually hitting jobs hardest, and there was some notes here that we'll talk about. And I also just saw another one this morning that talked. Forbes Advisor is a great group to follow, and they talked about the changing pyramid to a diamond shape. Workers, we'll get into that a little bit later, but LinkedIn, looked at where AI is hitting the jobs the hardest, and what we thought was workers 50 and up are going to be more likely to be in the jobs that AI can't, those were the ones we were worried about. We're all sitting in that audience, but it's really hitting about 42% of the younger workers. And some of you may already know this through some of your networks or family connections, because those jobs are not built on judgment. They're built on transactional work and activity. What you have and what you bring to the table is that judgment. Again, coming back to that word from Duncan. And 20 years in the workforce actually trains you to do things. And it's what Terry was talking about earlier. You're not just running to ChatGPT or a Claude to get an answer. You know how to process whatever it gives you and refine it and use it for what it can be, not just everything, because you have to filter it and you have the ability to filter it.
So there was a study. I'm going to jump to this, the other study. And yes, we have a lot of stats and facts. Don't worry about it. We're going to send everybody afterwards a copy of the recording here, and there will be links to all of the Harvard and Stanford and AARP and LinkedIn resources that we are sourcing here. But there was a study out this July that said that the picture's more mixed for older workers whose jobs are heavily AI exposed, especially in fields where AI can do a lot of the actual task. Some of those folks are leaving work sooner, not later, right? So how are you when it comes to learning new skills? That's the question to those of us who have the judgment, right? So how open are you to taking on new technologies, to becoming part of what is being exposed and rolled out within either a large organization or for yourself? So I will tell you from my personal experience, as I mentioned earlier, I'm 10 years older than William. Every time I get on with him, he's like, let me show you a new trick. And I have become best friends with Cowork in Claude because it now triages my entire week. It tells me every morning exactly what I need to get done. It's programmed to send out mass iMessages for me to reconnect with past clients. It is executing on things that used to take away from my time to use my judgment. So it's not that AI is competing with you for your job. AI is there to supplement in the administrivia of everyday activity. That's an advantage.
and that's where we've got to go. So I feel like we should let that sit for a second, because a lot of people think that this is going to destroy their jobs and so forth, and we know that it's going to the youngers, right? And there is an advantage to what you bring, and the advantage is very specific, I think, right, Terri?
Absolutely. I think that when you have more time to think, I've put a couple of blog articles out in the last month just about how thinking doesn't happen when you're stressed. It doesn't happen when you're overwhelmed. And being able to get to that place of creativity, being able to get to that place of innovation, many times it requires that you quiet your mind. It requires that you step away from all of the things that are happening within a busy environment and tap into something that maybe you haven't seen in a while. I mean, at least for me, in my last role, I was super stressed. There was a lot going on, maybe stayed a little too long. So I wasn't quite in the innovation mood anymore, just because I didn't feel like it mattered. So what happens when you free yourself of all of that is you tap into that thing that used to motivate you.
Yeah. So we're going to move into part 2, which is about winning the interview and not just getting one. But I want to mention that the deck on your screen, you'll see a question there, and we'll be collecting all the answers and coming back to this at the end for our Q&A session. So please we've got some staff helping us coordinate on the chat. So grateful for that. Thank you, Danny. Shout out to you. Let's hear from you though, in the chats while we get ready to go into the next section. What's one thing you know how to do that you couldn't have handled 20 years ago? That's going to be important. And now let's kind of transition, talking about what to do actually with this information, because knowing you're right doesn't win you the job. The interview does. So kind of dive into that. And one of the key stats, whoops, I just clicked on the picture. There we go. When you come to winning the interview and not just getting one, we're talking about candidates over 50 get interviews at close to the same rates as everyone else. And that's true. It really is. I know that might feel like no, that's not how I feel after 6 months or a year. The doors do open pretty well. There are some techniques that you may not know about how to navigate that, be it the right networking strategies, the right tools and technology to help you get across. I mean, some of the things that we do, not to get too much of a sidebar, but to give you guys a second to catch up, it's truly AI might not surface you just because of a keywords issue. So finding contacts in the companies is very important when you have a serious interest in an organization's role. That
again, overriding the AI and making human interaction outrageously valuable to what we're trying to achieve, which is to find you a new job.
Yeah, exactly. So, the job offer, though, just to kind of clarify this too, once they're in the room, once you or they're getting the job offer, you guys are about 40% less than the younger candidates with the same qualifications. Now there's bias And Terri, I think we can talk a little bit about that and what is that bias in the room, and what I think AARP had some good things that validate too what we see on a daily basis.
I think it's assumptions. I mean, I think we all learned a long time ago. I think the 4 agreements: never make an assumption. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. Isn't that the way it goes? Yeah. So it's about assuming somebody doesn't know something that they do and not asking while they're in the interview, right? So because I come in and I'm in my 50s, they're going to assume that I'm not great at tech as the person who is in their 40s or in their 30s. Someone assumes you'll be the one who's going to fight that new system that's going to get rolled out. So it makes what you say in the interview extremely important because you have to showcase those skill sets.
Ooh, and so you're saying that they're just saying not the right fit, partly just because of their unconscious, subconscious biases. How do you beat something nobody even admits they're doing, Terri?
So I think it's about what you say, right? It's about the numbers, the metrics, and the impact of what you share in an interview. So here's a problem. So if they say that you have not improved, hold on, I just got lost on my notes. So if a client is being, or an interview person, I'm just going to take a deep breath here.
Yeah, it's about the example. I hear you, man. We love what we do, and there's so much in our heads too.
I just get so excited, and then I get lost, and then I'm also drinking an energy drink, and it's not a Red Bull; it's a Pro Baller. It's the ultimate premium energy drink.
That sounds hardcore.
I should have left that one off to the side for this contact. Let me start over.
Well, I think the example you were getting into, right, was something around real numbers and not just saying improved efficiency. So we know that that's a common answer, but I think you went deeper when you and I talked about this. It's not just about saying you improved efficiency. It's also about giving a statistic. But then where does it come with the client? Maybe the storytelling. I think we talked about one getting, about how you handled an example.
So here we go. So if I foster collaborative synergy across cross-functional teams, I mean, that sounds like a really long bullet on a resume. In an interview, it does not belong there. I mean, you need to be regurgitating things that drove real impact. So for example, I guarantee Miles has done this before. A client was about to leave. He was about to walk, and I got on a plane and I went and I met with them and I saved a $2 million a year account. That is what you've done in order to deliver what is a, very important thing, which is revenue.
Yeah. Okay. So this is important. Making a point, tying it to a human element. What else can we do?
You need to show the thinking behind it, right? So why did he get on a plane? Because he's been working with that human as a client for a very long time and knows that the only way that he's going to get across to that person is by showcasing a relationship move. So making sure that conversation happens face to face. And that still requires, you can't do that with AI. You can't do that on a computer. You've got to be able to take what you've done, interpret it into real facts that drive things that interviewer knows are important to the outcome of the job that they're going to be hiring you for.
And I think we're starting to build a pattern for some people. They may have heard these comments over time from different places, right? We start to talk about metrics and quantitative elements that give some depth, not just sounding like AI jargon, but that may be necessary for some of the bot component of this, because you have to get to the point where you're, there's some elements of that, right? But then talking about that human element of the actions that you take, that steps into it. And I think the question is, though, Terri, we can't dodge the AI or technology questions either, right?
No, bring it up first. Dive in. Let them know that it's a stress test resource for you. Like, you don't know that you're always right, but you're willing to take a look at what facts you do believe are accurate. And what I have found in my new loving relationship with Claude is that it is a great stress test resource. You throw up the things that you believe are helping you and moving you forward in that particular scenario, and you look at it from a couple of different angles. You can even tell it to come at it like Brene Brown would. I mean, it is a way to be the expert, to look at the different ways that something can be solved, and to select the one with your judgment that fits in that particular situation.
And I think that speaking from the nerd technology side as the former CTO of a company, being able to come into an organization and say, in your 40s, in your 50s, even in your 60s, heck, even in your 70s, you're leading in the interview. You're saying things that directly overcome those objections that might be under the hood in their minds. So when you're able to say, I use AI to stress test my own thinking before I bring that to the team, or I'd use AI to check that. I'd use that to speed up the process of auditing the information in here, and then I'll bring my judgment of over 20 years to that to really make sure this is the right next move. That's the kind of, you're setting the tone, you're staging it so that they don't have those objections and they can't use them on you, even if they didn't mean to. So let's pivot to a question on the chat. It's shared on your screen, and the question there is going to be, what interview questions do you dread the most right now? Maybe we can help look at those questions. And again, if we don't answer everything, we'll try to put some of those notes together with the stats and the deck and the recording, and see if we can't give you a couple of just techniques that you can use for that as well.
You know what? Do you know what the most deadly question is in an interview?
Oh boy, not sure. Tell us, Terri.
It is, tell me about yourself. Because if you don't have enough information about the direction that the position needs to go, and you have a career that's 20 plus years in length, that question can take you in a million different directions. And so that personal pitch on the front end of who you are and why you're there and what you offer, you've got to lock that in, and you've got to make sure that it aligns and resonates with your interviewer.
And we're going to get into a little bit more, just again, posture, all these things that you're describing. I think it's just the confidence and preparation that you do. And none of it helps if the resume never makes it to a person in the first place, right? So should we talk about that?
How do you get past that robot?
Right. Okay, let's see here. So yes, we've got the getting past the robot so a human can see you section, part 3 of our 3-part conversation here today. And then we'll have a little bit of Q&A depending on what we can find in the questions. And then we'll wrap. And I'm quietly monitoring the online. It looks like it's a little bit further behind, but perhaps it's all working well. So let's get into something. Okay, let's maybe this will make you yell at your screen. I don't know. But Harvard Business School and Accenture, this is a study we're quoting from them. So they asked employers straight up, and 88% of them admitted to this, that their own hiring software is screening out qualified people just because the resume didn't use the exact wording on the job post. Not anything related to the person doing the job. We have this volume system. I could go on a whole soapbox about the problems with that, and Terri could too. We want to hit the high levels today of how to get past that robot. And, just as another funny story, not related to this Harvard business, well, not funny, but terrifyingly funny. Last year, Workday, which is one of the major 5 players in HR. I mean, if you filled out an application, chances are you filled out a Workday application at some point on somebody's site. And, their AI quietly started scoping out and excluding anyone that it could figure out was over a certain age limit. So that turned into a class action lawsuit last year. And when you have other tools like ChatGPT's OpenAI just this week, accidentally hacking a private company, Huggins, Huggins, if you want to look it up, we have a very powerful tool that is somewhat out of control at times, and people haven't quite figured out where it fits. We have our own theories on how that and how the technology should work and what you can do. So let's just get there. But again, 88% are saying that their hiring software is screening out qualified people.
It's a bad checklist on the, they put filters in, right? Like we all do whenever we use LinkedIn to try to find jobs. They put the wrong filters in, and they end up getting an arsenal of people that either are all exactly alike because they all word stuff their resume to match what the job description said that it was in order to get past the robot. So it's sincerely a gate that is broken, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Terri and I know that one of the most important things is if we can help you as our organization prioritizes, or if you can find ways to do this through your own network at times, find somebody who can take a mention to an HR, and you can move yourself out of that flow into a tier of being considered an internal reference, an internal referral. So that's one practical solution. But you also need to figure out how to manage this, and it's not as simple as it might seem to just open ChatGPT, give it the job description, give it your resume, and tell it to make you one. Because tools like that often go outside of the scope of what they should say about you. You really got to monitor it, or else you might be not presenting yourself accurately, and that's going to turn into you either maybe getting an interview, but then is that going to go well if they start asking questions and they start to realize you lean that heavily on AI? So there's some things to do to keep it simple. Your resume, one column, real headings, not fancy graphics the software can't read. These are a couple of things you may have already heard. They're still true. Don't be so afraid of the length. Don't panic. The 2026 resume report out that says almost half of job seekers now are using something more than one page. And frankly, any of us on this call that are concerned about the topic, having 20 plus years, you can't fit that on one page. It's just not really going to work.
2 pages is the standard. I mean, the two, that's at least what I advise for the clients that we're working with.
Yeah.
The other thing is I've had clients ask me, why are we partnering with a company like CareerFlow when they can just use ChatGPT or Claude? And one of the main reasons is that you can't see what Claude changed. You can't see what ChatGPT changed in the document. It'll tell you on the side what it did, but then it takes just as much time to go back through and validate that the changes were what you had expected and wanted.
You might as well have done it yourself.
The document, right? So, we employ and use a resource called CareerFlow that allows people to go through and check all of the changes that have been made, and then export the document and do the application. And it's still just word stuffing. I mean, but it's saving you time because it has the Chrome extension that moves the job into a Kanban that you can manage. And then it lets you know what it's changed, right?
It also maintains your style. And I think there's a difference between just using an AI tool, and this is me nerding out for 10 seconds for everyone's benefit, hopefully. There's a difference between just a probabilistic engine, which is what AI is. It's thinking what you probably want to say when you ask it for a prompt, right? You're giving it some request. But there's a programmatic element to tools that are more structured. And so it can remember that use better than a memory system of an AI tool by itself. And so it has a database that's storing these decisions. I think that keeping the formatting is actually speeds up the time and the effort and the look and quality as well. And what I like about CareerFlow is it actually shows you more like a track changes format when the edits are done. So you can go click edit, make some additional tweaks. Sure, your percentage match might go down a little bit, but it is running not purely Claude, not purely ChatGPT. It's also running a rules-based system of compliance and best practices on that layer. So you end up with kind of a better structure and a framing to do those kinds of things rather than just the most general answer that a GPT or a Claude will come back with. But
and adding in an AI detector on the end, Grammarly offers one of those. Is also a plus, because there are, as we have talked before in our last, I think, LinkedIn Live, there are people that are taking AI resumes that are over a certain percentage and putting them in a different bucket and never looking at them. So it's really not about beating the machine. It's just about getting the machine to not give them a reason to not move you forward. And that's what we want, is for you to seamlessly ride that wave, and then get your network activated so that those referrals become internal referrals, and there's frequency. So if your name comes up more than one time and then they find you in the applicant tracking system, that tends to make it easier for you to maybe not even go through all of the filters that they are using. They're pulling you around the filters because someone referred you.
Yeah. The LinkedIn profile matters too, right? So there's an easy way to check that. If recruiters keep checking out about jobs you don't want, probably your profile's telling the wrong story, right? So you want to fix that too before you go fixing anything else. Terri, do you have any more to add to that?
Well, just making sure that there's consistency. You don't want to tell one story on your resume and something totally different on your LinkedIn profile. So just making sure that you're you, that you have a brand, that you have a position in the market, you represent what you offer. All of that is authenticity. And I believe in a world of AI and things that are artificial, authenticity becomes much more important.
Yeah, and we are starting to get some good questions. So we're keeping track of those, and questions about, again, best ways to get the ATS score and allow you to check your resume. Again, I think some of the tools that we recommend and we use with our clients are fantastic. You can get them directly, but working with us, we bring that to the table, and we set up and configure it so that it's working on day one for you. But then just in general, those other tips and tricks that we've just mentioned will fall into really helping you get that score. There's the tool that we use, that career flow tool, does give you an actual score against the job description. So that's important. And our company intelligence apps also take the job descriptions and work in some insights to help you make sure you're looking at a good company in the first place, whether they have a job or not. Those are some things we could talk about later. But right now, I think we're kind of coming to, last one and matters the most is at this executive level. AI speeds up who gets found, right? It does not decide who gets hired. So that still comes down to a real person calling a real reference, or hearing from someone internally saying, hey, make sure you check this person out. Sometimes that's all you literally need, is just that little edge. Someone who can tap HR and see if things got dropped off. One of our clients just this past week got a great new role, and but he came through a network connection that one of us had, and that allowed for, it took a while. Sometimes these things move slowly, but when there was a need to check in, and you start to get somebody who's on the inside kind of excited about you, that's even better. And so building those relationships intentionally now at the companies you're thinking about is a good way. Following the key leaders of the company is a good thing too, so it gives you some more insights, but definitely connecting with more people. So
and
Terri,
job search can be lonely. I think people forget that, when you are executives, right, it gets lonely at the top, right? Because even internally, when you are fully employed, you are more autonomous and you're making decisions that impact a large number of people, and you can't confide in as many of your coworkers about what you're challenged with at that point. So in job search, it's important that if you find yourself starting to doubt yourself, that you find a checkpoint, a mentor, a coach, somebody that you can talk to. Maybe it's your BFF, but someone that you are walking through your approach and the things that you're executing in the market, just to double check that everything that you're doing is still what is needed to be done, because things are changing really fast right now.
They are. Whew. Well, I think one last question just to throw it out there for you all, and the chat will be open. And I'm feeling that getting a vibe from Danny that it's about 60 seconds behind sometimes with the chat that's going on. And that's standard LinkedIn Live approach. So we're going to mention one more question just from related to this part and share in the comments, because we'd love to hear from where you're at. How are you feeling about using AI in your own job search? We've talked about it now in this last section, giving you some ideas about how we would recommend using it, tools and technology that we can talk to you more about, and you can reach out to us for. But are you not using it? Is there a part where you feel like you need to fight against the machine in some way? We just want to know what you're thinking and see if we can give you some feedback that would be helpful to you. And that's going to take a little bit of time while those come in. We're going to come up with a little bit of a closing comments.
Oh, wait, forgot to offer the company intelligence app that we offer. Yes. Has free access. You can order a couple of reports at no charge. I think it's important for research, because we've put together the guardrails on our research tool in order to make it faster for you to get exactly what you need for a particular job that you're going to be interviewing on. So if you haven't tried that yet, we will make sure that you have a link and access to that after this call.
That's it. That's right. I've actually glad you mentioned that, and we'll share that out as a link. It has 2 free reports that'll give you some great insights. You can expand with if you have a job description, and if you have contacts actually at that particular company, there's a spot where you can put in information about them, and we will create some insights to help you specifically with what you should be asking them about, related to who you are, your background, the information and insights that we've gathered from Crunchbase, Glassdoor, and a lot of other places. So you didn't have to do all the work to pull it together. And it takes into effect the latest news that's going on with the company. And so it's really going to be timely questions that will guide you getting some insider information on what's really going on in that company. So I think here's where we'll leave things. We've got a lot to talk about with regard to judgment. Don't forget, you have that. The 20-somethings don't, and that's where coming back to the Forbes example right now, Forbes Advisor, there's an interesting pyramid that's talking about just what's changing and what's happening at the top. And so we used to be a big funnel of different tiers of people. Now we have a very different feel and vibe to what we're doing. I was going to grab that picture just to show it to you guys as a kind of while we're waiting for some of the more questions to come in. So give me a second, and we'll include this as well in the links. Let's see. The easiest way for me to probably do that is to put it in the deck because I've already got that shared. And that's not how you click it. Let's see. One more time. Questions are coming in, so we'll get right into that as well. Let's see. Copy image. Like to do stuff on the reel. Okay, here we go. So that's a little bit small, but while we're getting questions, we'll just give you one more piece. The traditional structure on the left is the narrow top, right? You've got your C-suite and your bosses. Then you have that middle tier of bosses, where a lot of us might fit with our experience at this point in our careers, in the middle tier and the narrow top on the traditional side. And then we have that wider base, lots and lots of people working and managing 8 to 10 people and all of that. And if you look at what's really happening in the market now, the more effective AI network, what we have is that narrow base. And this is what happened. It changed from that pyramid to diamond shape. And that's what's really happening to the AI and teams of people with some AI agents and tools being used. And so that's where the younger audiences, the 24-year-olds, are having a really hard time right now. The middle tier is actually widened a bit, trying to find a way to maximize using the technical skills and the capabilities that you have, and your judgment, right? That's really what it is. But if you can showcase the technical skills and the judgment, then you're going to fit well in the middle tier, as well as running a top tier level to be able to absorb that information and understand how it works. So that's a little bit more information on that piece of it. And I think we're going to go over to the questions section. Terri, I mean, if you want to add anything else, I think there was just 1 or 2 notes left on our, if there's anything to add.
No, I think I would just like everyone to know that it's not as bad as people are making it. Do not discredit yourself, but get as knowledgeable as you can about AI. It's important to have an understanding of how it can help you and how it can save you time. And don't dodge the questions about AI. Dive right in and make sure that they know out of the gate that it is a part of your repertoire of skills.
Yeah, that's true. You use proactive statements to talk about how you bring technology and AI in, and that you understand that there's digital transformation happening in every business because of some of these changes, and that you're comfortable with it, and you use your own tools, and you're used to thinking strategically and bringing your judgment and knowing how these can fit in, and constantly in a learning state, just like the rest of us. But don't talk about it as, I don't touch that. Yeah, it's got to be positive and proactive. I'm looking at some of the comments that we're getting, and Saul, I appreciate you making some good comments today, talking about how you use really even for cover letters and making adjustments there. And that's good. That's true. It can be helpful to have those cover letters are still somewhat relevant, especially with data systems, if it reads it as a data point.
Well, it's basically if they ask for it, give it. That's it's like, if it's asked for, don't be that person that is non-compliant. Make sure you deliver it.
That's it. And I think Miles just said he participated in a weeks-long AI training at the Judge School of Business at Cambridge, and that covered everything from practical applications to the fear of Skynet. The theme was keep a human in the process. And I think most companies are starting to figure that out. Even some of the companies that went extreme with their trying to roll out and replace a lot of staff with AI, they miscalculated how expensive AI is getting. It's a constant increase in cost. That's around that. So you can't just outperform and assume that AI is going to take over every task. But there are good workhorse type tasks that wouldn't be done better and faster, that are more transactional tasks, if you want to call them that are also important. All right, let's see what else is in the thread here. I think those were some of the main ones. We certainly will keep in, you haven't all seen every one of these yet, so let's see what else is in there. Any more comments? We see some earlier on. I'm going back and seeing that maybe you've got some questions. Actually, you guys are just getting to the part where you're hearing the next part. So we'll stand by and keep looking for anything else. And if you come to comments, or you want to share any other notes even after this, we will add those to our sort of what we
We're
heard
going to send a
questions.
recap out afterwards. If there's anything major, we can just include that into the notes, as well as the links to all of the different authorities that we use today.
Exactly.
But we'll be back next month. We've got another. We've been working with founders, and so we're going to be doing another event at the end of August around being lonely at the top and how a leader can find resources in order to be effective in their decision making and not feel like they're doing it all by themselves.
We love that we can be an advisory for talented professionals, whether you're working full time in a role, looking to make that transition to a new role, or thinking about starting your own business and being a new founder or taking that out to the world. Or if you're already an existing business, as a number of people know about our experience and our network, it allows us to tap an incredible talent base to help give you insights and be a great advisor to you, as well as strengthen your understanding of AI and other tools for your particular business and profession. So it's a neat thing that Terri and I get to do together, to work with individuals like yourselves and with businesses, and to help them thrive as well, because really we want people to thrive, and clarity for what's next is our go-to. We want to help you find clarity. So take that chance to grab a clarity call with us. The first conversation will go directly, for anybody on this call, we'll go directly to having a conversation with Terri, and that'll give you a chance to have, a 30-minute discussion around your particular situation. And from there, she may have some thoughts. She'll put some details together. Usually she shares those thoughts with me. I will come back and meet with you and give you a brief synopsis of some of the directives and recommendations that she has for you. That's just sort of part of our complimentary get to know people and do good in the world motto. And then also we'll talk about different ways and approaches that you could work with us.